in partnership with EcoTrust Food and Farms. Bringing the people behind our food to life.
Our idea was kind of get back to the basics and kind of take care of the land, farm it the way it was done years ago before it became so mechanized and so industrialized. I was a software engineer and had done that for about 25 years. I guess I was at a point in my career where I was ready to do something else. I was tired of the cubicle kind of work style where you just, get up every day, you go to a small cubicle and you work. And then we also kind of, as a family, wanted to do something that was more family inclusive, family friendly. Most of the projects I worked on were classified, so my family couldn't even come and see where I worked or what I did because you had to have a security clearance to get in. And so we started thinking about, well, what could we do more as a family? And I think it was Marilyn that found this book called You Can Farm by Joel Salatin. And she read that and got excited and gave it to me, and I read that and for the first time really got excited about farming, because up to that point I don't think I'd even given farming a thought, because I had never grown up in that kind of environment, and I just figured, well, you have to kind of really know what you're doing in order to be a successful farmer, and I had no background in that. But after reading this book, we discovered, well, it's not quite as complicated as a lot of people think, or certainly as I thought originally. So that's kind of what got us started in thinking about farming as a lifestyle change.
Then we wrote to Joel and asked if he knew of anybody out in the West that did that kind of farming that we could kind of go and work with and observe. And he didn't know anybody out here, so we wrote back and said, well, could we come back there and work with you for a while? He said, sure. So we leased out our house, put all of our stuff in storage, and lived in a tent trailer, 5 of us.
For 5 months?
For 5 to 6, well, about 6 months, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Anyway, and went back and worked with Joel to make sure, because this was a big step, to make sure that this is something that we'd want to do. And then we decided, yeah. So we started looking along I-5, a place in the country, but yet close to population areas so that we could market the products.
Hey, piggies.
We've got them out in the woods where they're under oak trees, so they look for acorns. They love the acorns that have fallen on the ground, and they just root and play and are happy.
Our animals are just healthy because of the way they're raised. The idea is to try to allow them to have as natural or as close to a natural environment as they would have in the wild, as they were originally created, so that you're not trying to force them into kind of a type of life that they weren't designed for. And so that causes a lot of problems when you start putting animals in confinement and on feedlots, because that's not their natural behavior, or that just causes a lot of problems that you have to deal with later then. Mm-hmm. We don't have to feed them antibiotics to keep them healthy. Mm-hmm. I think it makes a lot more sense to kind of manage your animals to keep them from getting sick rather than having to deal with sickness after they haven't been managed correctly, and then you've got a lot of sick animals on your hands. So we try to kind of prevent them from getting sick in the first place rather than treating them after it's happened. I think most people are concerned about how animals are treated. It's just not the people that belong to some of the advocacy groups that want fair treatment of animals. I think we all have a natural desire to see any kind of a living being treated well, and that include their animals. The poultry industry has been largely raised under confinement now for probably 40, 50 years. The feedlot for cattle has been around for probably almost that long, where they confine thousands and thousands in a relatively small area for the last 30, 60 days, sometimes longer. Mm-hmm. And you can't expect to treat animals that way without some some kind of a downside, and the downside is they're not going to be as healthy, and they're going to be propped up with antibiotics to keep them or have a semblance of health. And then those antibiotics are getting into people that eat them, and now we're finding people are, not responding to antibiotics because their systems have become resistant to them because of all the antibiotics they've been consuming in their feed. So there's more and more concern and more awareness now as some of these things are coming to light. And we encourage all our customers to come out and visit us on the farm. Once they see how we raise the animals, they're hooked. It doesn't take somebody with a lot of farming background to come out here and say, this looks like a healthy place to raise animals. And so we encourage people to come out and see what we do. And you'll never see anybody in the confinement poultry industry inviting people to come out and tour their facility. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I just think this is a great lifestyle. I mean, I'm thankful every time I get up in the morning that I have this place to go to work to. And I just have to step out my front door and I'm at work, and it's great. I mean, it has a lot to offer this kind of a lifestyle, and so I think as a family we're certainly glad we made the change.